Hi, I'm Nico and welcome to my channel.
For today's video, I'll be sharing how I made my latest custom build. This will be my first build for the new year, and so I took my time and went big with this diorama. Also, I started my own Patreon page. I've put the link below if you want to check it out. It would be awesome to have your support over there. And in return, you'll get cool rewards like becoming a Discord member and seeing exclusive posts like this one. This kit has been sitting on one of our storage boxes for a few years now. And as you can see, it has lost a few parts. I decided not to use the legs because then that would be too big for a diorama. I turned this into a ZAKU 2 as well because the horn went missing. I was planning on re-scribing the panel lines but it was not needed at all. I did some damages to the clear piece over the eyes because it won't make sense if that didn't suffer some kind of damage. Then I went ahead and got started on the base. I first sketched out the design on Procreate to get the basic lines and angles down, because it's important to me that the diorama is dynamic and pleasing to the eyes. So I made sure there were no same angles. The base is made from styrofoam, the kind that you can get from food packaging and stuff. Because this is bigger than my usual dioramas, I decided not to use the blue foam because that would be too pricey. It's a square that's about 10 inches, so it's big. Then I went ahead and started cutting it up and shaping it. This would have been so much easier if I had a new cutter blade or a foam cutter. In the end, I ended up digging at it with my fingers. Like I said, this diorama is big, and so using texture paint would be too expensive. So I went old school, the sand and glue technique. I secretly took some sand from one of my dad's aquariums, washed away the fishy smell, then dried it. I wouldn't recommend doing this, but I had no sand in stock, and I didn't want to buy because then I would have to wait for that. The sand is mixed with white glue. You can also use wood glue. Then I added a bit of water before I put it on the styrofoam. I glued the kit in place with some white glue, then I started scraping the sand onto the base. Using this aquarium sand enabled me to make a rocky ground texture and covered up the ugly foam texture as well. I also added some bigger rocks behind the kit, not just to hide the gap but to make it look like it's been buried under it. Using some kind of finer sand or tile grout is great too if you want a finer ground texture or if you're working on a smaller scale. But in my case, since I'm doing a 1:48 ZAKU kit and I wanted a rocky ground texture, I went with the aquarium sand. And I had no choice. couple of hours, the glue has dried, and I did some battle damages with a soldering iron and a Dremel. This is my first time working on a 1:48 scale, and so I made sure to make the battle damages bigger than I normally would. I also added a bunch of wires and pieces of plate around the shoulder, so it's not just a big peg sticking out. I got a few more rounded pebbles and stones and started placing it around the area where the stream is supposed to be. I looked at references, and there's always quite a few rocks and stones near rivers and streams, so that's what I was doing. Then I got some texture paint and I used it to kind of trace where the stream is supposed to be, just as a reminder for me, and it also adds variety to the groundwork. So it's not just rocks and pebbles, there's obviously going to be soil and sand too. I got some more texture paint and started putting it mostly on top and around the kit to introduce a different texture to the groundwork as well. Then I added plates on all sides to hide the ugly foam texture and make the overall diorama look much more presentable. I also hid the gaps between the plate and foam with some air dry clay. Then I paint over those with texture paint. I didn't do much on this kit, and I didn't even remove the seam lines, so I decided to hide it under putty. I didn't want to sand it off nicely, so I just turned it into a cast iron texture, is what it's called, I think. Then I primed it in black, and I decided to do an undercoat with German red brown, and then I let it cure overnight. While letting the ZAKU cure, I airbrushed the ground with some mecha color brown. It looks like poop, but since I'll be doing washes and pigments, it will darken and look better. I also painted some green around the stream area to resemble moss and algae. The next morning, I sprayed chipping medium over the kit, and then I went ahead with my base color, which is an olive green, I think. Also, keep in mind that whenever you use chipping medium, always pair it with model air or game air, because if you use mecha color on top of it, it is a pain to remove. I painted the gray parts as well, and then I went ahead and did some pre-shading with the lighter green. Doing the light green also gives the effect of a faded look, especially on the head, which has been exposed to sunlight probably for a few years now. And now, the fun part, I started paint chipping with a barbecue stick, but you can use a brush or something that can scrape the paint off. It's very easy to control where you want the chipping to be, so it's up to you and the look you're going after. This is almost done, just a couple more washes, pigments, and whatnot, but I'm not going to show it anymore here, because I'll be saving those and the finishing touches for the article I'm writing for Fine Scale Modeler.
Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe and watch my other videos.